Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Kamar Yellis here, the Finance Rebel. This is the Finance Rebel Show. This is a special edition of the Finance Rebel Show, and I'm actually really excited for this show because it's something I've been trying to put together for a while. As many of you know, I am the treasurer for PABJ, which stands for the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. And many of you see me start doing more media, more TV, more radio, and even a little bit of print. And I just wanted to kind of share some of the stories of that because, you know, as being a Black business owner, it's important to get media exposure, or it can be important to get media exposure. But I was able to do that through my membership through PABJ. And I actually got taught by the gentleman we are interviewing today, Mr. Manuel Smith. So Manuel Smith, you might hear me calling Manny, right? He is the president of PABJ, again, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, which is also a chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists, right? But Manny is also the managing director of KYW-TV. And so I said, you know what? It would be really good to share some of the information that I got to help me get some media placement with many of the other Black-owned businesses who just so happen to be in my sphere of influence and in my network. So today I'm going to bring Manuel, I'm messing up his name already, y'all. I'm going to bring Manny on, and we're going to have a conversation about how you can get more media exposure, which will ultimately, hopefully, help you with your branding, help you with your marketing, and eventually help you make more money, put more money in your pocket. So we're going to bring Manny on right now and begin this convo.
Glad to be here with you, Kamar.
Thank you, Manny. But before we get going, everybody, listen, if you know a Black-owned business, share this with them. This is going to be
definitely
literally $1 million worth of information that people can use to better the positioning of their business. But how you doing, Manny?
I'm good. You don't mind if I drink coffee during the interview, do you? I can be relaxed. It's like
I got some coffee right here too.
All right, that's good. Okay.
Listen, it's just a conversation. It's just a conversation. But, you know, again, I thought it would be good to share some of the stuff that you've been teaching me over my tenure at PABJ and share it with everybody because, you know, sharing is caring, right?
Yes, absolutely. And we both agree at the end of the day, you know, listen, more exposure for more Black business is a good thing.
Exactly.
Well, so, you know, let's keep that energy through all of the rest of 2020 and all of 2021.
All of 2021 and going forward. We need that forever.
Yes.
All right. So listen, folks, we're going to be on for about an hour to about 40 minutes of conversation with me and Manny. Please save your questions for the end. We'll have a brief question and answer segment. Manny's busy. It's hard for me to even get in touch with this guy. So listen, we are on borrowed time and it's precious time. So let's keep it tight. So Manny, you are the president of Philadelphia chapter of Black Journalists.
Yes.
You are also the managing editor of KYW-TV.
Yes.
So basically, you are the guy who's in charge of putting stuff in the mix on TV.
Yes.
What is that like?
It is. It's nonstop, especially in the pandemic and when all the stuff is going on. But man, you know, I try to think of my job as the viewer at home. Like, if you really, when people watch Channel 3, you know, what are the questions they watch at home? So my job is to help decide, hey, which reporters cover a story? Which story are we covering? Are we missing a fact? Can we add some additional information? Can we make some additional connections about something? And how do we put that together? Kamari, you and I have worked together on that for a little bit too, like, you know, and I think that's the gist of a little bit of the conversation, because one of the things in the headlines, and the thing is, listen, in television, we're trying to react in real time to a lot of things, but we, you know, it became particularly in the headlines when they did the PPP program and there were no Black businesses getting PPP loans.
Yes.
We wanted to talk about the impact of that on finances. And listen, the first thing that popped in my mind is talk to the Finance Rebel. You already branded yourself. You already had a studio, and hey, you were able to come in and give us some specific facts and advice about that situation. And I'd like to see, you know, more people of color be able to, you know, step up and own their areas and be the expert, and use that as an opportunity not only to inform communities, but leverage some business for themselves.
Gotcha. So you just listed a couple of things, right? I'm assuming that were important to this process. There was a big story, just using me as an example, there was a big story going on in PPP. You knew I've been kind of staying in tune with it, staying in touch with it. You knew I had a mic. You knew I had lighting. You knew I had my own studio. So Is that always a big part of getting media placement?
No, I think in a sense that you need to be aware of what your expertise is, and then you can be flexible as to what that's about. I get constant emails about that, of just people just informing me of what's going on. And here's the thing: you people send a million emails, and I might respond to like one of them in a week. It's keeping your stuff in front of me when it's always timely. Just bring up a few recent examples, Kamari. There's a Black woman from Philadelphia who is running the investigation into the tear gas on 676 and 95. Her firm was just reminding me, hey, she's here, she's from Philly, she's local, she brings this type of experience to the job. I'm launching investigations. Actually just started last week, but listen, the third time she sent that in, it was the perfect day to do a story with her.
So basically the message here is don't just submit once, right?
No, you got to submit more than once, and you got to be timely, and you got to be like relevant and let people know you're ready.
Okay.
These days too, everybody's noticed it on television, especially with the pandemic. No one is, and listen, that's news crews too. We're not eager to go into anybody's house that we don't know. Like right. You guys aren't eager to come into the studio because you don't know us. And so people who have a Zoom background, like you said, who have a professional microphone, who have a setup that looks a little interesting and definitely broadcast ready, that certainly helps. And it doesn't even really necessarily have to be like I said, your studio works because you're talking about finance and it's kind of like an office setting for the most part, But what are you trying to do? If you're a doctor, you know what I mean? Your Zoom setup can be in your doctor's office. If you're cooking or doing something like that, your Zoom setup can be in your kitchen. You don't really have to overthink what you're trying to do. Just make sure it's a clean, bright environment with clean audio, and that usually will work.
So describe clean audio, right? Because that's probably the most important thing. I mean, even on TV, video is good, but audio tends to be the most important thing. I don't think a lot of people understand that. But what do you need? Do you need some kind of fancy smancy mic like I have, or can you use your cell phone? What can you use?
You know what? There's a number of different options. It's so funny. That would be a whole episode on itself on audio, Kamari.
Right.
You definitely don't want to, like, right now, like you guys can see, like you see Kamari's video, actually. That's probably the better example to show. Like you definitely have a cleaner picture than I do, because I just popped open my laptop and now you can see the video's a little fuzzy. The lighting isn't exactly right. Again, listen, if we were to ask people right now, if we both were going to talk about finance, who would you pick based on the look right now? So that's like a perfect example of like investing in a little bit of equipment here and there, only because I know your journey, Kamari. You didn't start with that mic. Like, you tried a few things, you got used to some equipment, you knew the look that you were going to look for. I don't want to, I'm giving a longer answer because I don't want someone to go buy a $300 mic and then not know what to do with it.
Right.
You really need to, like, hey, you know what? I want my audio to be better, to really start researching those options. Hey, you know what? I did this. I'm getting a little return on investment in what I did. Now I want to take it to the next level and go out and do that.
Right. And, I say that because you're right. You don't need necessarily a $300 mic. This is not a $300 mic. Right. You can use your cell phone oftentimes. You can look for natural lighting. You don't even all the time have to use an external lighting source, but if you've got good lighting from the outside, good window, you want to face the window and have the light shine on you, so you can get the best lighting possible. But I know sometimes people kind of overcomplicate that. I am not the lighting and audio expert. I just know just enough, right? But, I just wanted to go over that real quick.
We actually telling people now, listen, you might get like us to start spending money on stuff, and that might be the point of the finance rebel to tell people to do stuff, but it does become a thing after a while, right?
I've actually seen YouTube channels turn into that, but that's not. Hey, I'm all about sharing, right? Sharing is caring.
You know what? So and we talked. Actually, we didn't get a chance to talk about it in that conversation. Like, I think a lot of people, and listen, mass media exposure is a big opportunity, but what are you doing with that to help maximize yourself? Like, imagine if you come on TV as an expert and you give good advice, and a few more people see you, then that's a win-win situation. But what if you say, hey, I'm going to come on TV, I'm going to give people good advice, and I'm going to give them my Instagram hashtag. And so that those extra people who come to me that follow me, now that I've got this additional equipment that I invested in, I'm going to start doing regular Instagram lives to engage with them in a deeper level. That's I think that's the deeper conversation that we want to kind of have with people. Hey, what's the purpose of you wanting more exposure, of wanting to be out there? What are you going to do with that message once you have it?
Gotcha.
So I think in a session, and through PABJ, we got to know. And actually, you know what, Kamari, we should stop and tell this story because I want to not take credit for all the amazing things we get to do at PABJ. Part of this is you, and listen, association PABJ is the oldest association of Black journalists in the nation. We used to have big meetings before a pandemic, like 50, 100 people would come to the meeting.
Yes, tell me about it.
Yes, Kamari joined as a treasurer as soon as I got elected as president, and Kamari's like, "Hey, we need to spend money on Black businesses." And so,
you want to say that publicly?
Yes. Well, I mean, it was so listen, it wasn't a thing of I wasn't trying to go to Black businesses. It was hey, what was easy, what was ready for delivery, which may not have been the most prominent Black businesses. But he said, hey, let's be intentional about how we spend the money.
Yes.
But if you remember very early on, we had met the owner of French Toast Bites.
Sharice
McGill.
Yes.
And we had said, hey, Sharice we always did a little intro of her, and she had said right before we introduced her, she had never been covered by any Black media. She was a Black woman selling these French Toast Bites, going to all these events, and hadn't been covered by any Black media. I think Sharice now she's almost ubiquitous in media. She covers events, she does different things. I think that she was ready to use that opportunity. She got a cup from that meeting. She was on the cover of the Sunday Sun and then almost was everywhere in media afterwards. But she's been really good at curating the people that started to follow her on social media to make sure that she was able to time her media appearances before she opened up pop-up shops to get people to come, to kind of treat some of the people who came over to her shop as celebrities in a little bit. You know what? She got really good at even going into the Instagram craze a little bit. This summer she was down at Penn's Landing. And she was curating, talking to popular people on Instagram, getting them to come to the shop. And she could see an actual boost in her sales when somebody would post her stuff or a little video on Instagram Live. But again, she was able to pivot those media appearances into immediate business opportunities and income and revenue for her. And listen, when you have a strategy behind what you're doing, I think that is a win-win for not only for media, but for you as a person too.
Right. So I have Sharice right here. I couldn't find the Sunday Sun article.
Yeah.
This is the other major news outlet here in Philadelphia. I won't say their name, but you can kind of see it. But says she wants to be the Aunt Auntie of French Toast. And yes, she came to our meeting. She served our members. She did a wonderful job. She's got a wonderful spirit, and she did the thing. She did the thing. So that's definitely a testimony to the power of media. And it's not like she's got some kind of expensive gadgets she's selling French toast sticks, and she has this seasoning that she has or that she uses. I know I bought some of it. It's actually really good. It's really good. I wish I would have known you were going to talk about that, because I often try to highlight Black-owned businesses on my social media, on the page here, during the broadcast there. So I definitely want to broadcast her. Shout out to Sharice. So thank you for that, Manny.
Real deal, Kamari. My wife started making she put it in banana pudding the other day. It was the truth. It was good. The seasoning. It was good. It was really good. That's
right. But that is a perfect example of how
now I'm having going out buy another bag of it.
Absolutely. But that's a perfect example of how powerful media is. Now, what should a business owner think of? Well, let me ask you this question, right? When you guys are in the newsroom and you're looking for interesting stories to cover for businesses, what are you thinking about? What's that process like?
We always have this thing of what's the real person story? Something big can be happening. It can be an 8-alarm fire. And yes, I'm going to show you flames at some point, but the next thing I really want to show you is the real person. Who is being impacted from that fire? Did somebody get evacuated? Do people need help? Do they need food and clothing? You know, who are the real people that are getting involved in that story? And I think sometimes in business, you need to think about that as an opportunity. A couple of weeks ago, actually, Kamari, because I know it's your area, Montgomery County. Remember the water outage that was out? I don't know if you were affected by that. There was a water main break, and there's a boil water advisory for like.
Yeah, actually, I was affected by that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So one business that took big advantage of that was Collegeville Bakery. So they immediately had to shut down. Immediately had to shut down. And, you know, Collegeville is a little out of the way. But man, immediately their owner like email, hey, we shut down for the day, just letting you guys know. That's an example of an email. I knew about it. I didn't do anything about it. The next morning, he's like, yo, I want to open for business. I'm having a tanker of 3,000 gallons of water, clean water delivered so I can open today. And when he sent it, he attached like a cell phone video of this same tanker showing up at 5 a.m. And then next thing you know, he's doing Zoom interviews all day about how he has to go through these extra efforts to keep his business open. That went on for 2 or 3 days. And that was just in his shop. And again, he was ready for the opportunity to kind of like promote it. I mean,
sounds like anything that's going on that's affecting people,
yes,
could be a potential opportunity for a Black business owner to take advantage of.
Yes.
So
even if it's not like directly affecting you, like again, let's go back to a tragedy of a fire. And again, not that we want to look at tragedy as opportunity, but we're looking for people doing things in their element. Like what if people got you know, evacuated or whatever? Maybe you're the local cafe owner that took coffee over to the firefighters.
So all right,
just to people and make them available.
So our other PABJ member, Manuel Glenn,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Broadcaster and I, we actually did we cooked breakfast for the folks who had a major fire out in West Philly 2 or 3 years ago. I forget what it was. So you're telling me I could have kind of flipped that and said the rebels making breakfast.
Yes. Hey, come out. Let's see what we're doing. Like this is what we're doing again, because we're looking for stories and looking for opportunities. And again, here's the thing. Let's like we said, hey, it came to a more complex story when we were able to connect about the PPP and the Black business owners. But man, I already know the rebel. I know what it is. So now when that bigger idea comes up, we've already got a relationship. You know, you already are a trusted source in that sense. So I kind of know what to expect, and it's easier to pitch in a story meeting, or if you're going to email somebody.
So is it easier, because you brought up relationships? So is it easier to, I guess, position people for these opportunities in media that you recognize once you have a real relationship with someone, or can it be anybody that just sends a pitch and it's just as easy?
The relationships definitely help. And I think they work. All the way around. You know what? Someone else again who is well known in this group, or probably to your viewers or affiliate at least, Saudia Schuler.
Saudia Schuler. Yep. Shout out to Saudia.
Yes.
I'm a fan.
Yes, but no, I mean, but again, look at Saudia's trajectory. Like she started with the prom mom thing, then you know she kind of came in her own little troubles or whatever, but then was able to pivot as a business owner and was able to use her exposure in general media to build her own audience, to build her own connections. And she is kind of like a well-known brand. You walk around the city, you know who she is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And
it's funny. She uses, I want to say tension.
Yeah.
Tension probably isn't the right word, but she knows how to get people riled up. I think she's a marketing and PR genius personally. I mean, because just from what they call the camel prom, she got worldwide or at least nationwide exposure. Again, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it damn sure helped their business.
Sometimes I think, and listen, I want to be honest in this sense too. As African Americans, I think we're more distrustful of outside groups and outside entities coming into it, or we want to be personal about our business. But sometimes other people, like, they're not looking to exclude us when they just don't know. You know, like maybe there is a situation. You know, again, I'm trying to bring up good examples. You know who else has been good lately? The guy, your fave trash man on Instagram. Have you heard of him? He's regular sanitation worker, but now he's on Instagram at YA Fave Trash Man.
No, I've never seen that.
Yeah, he's an actual sanitation worker
For the city of Philadelphia.
Yes, and during the pandemic, when they were working like 80-hour days and wasn't enough guys, he was just going on Instagram Live, like just really showing and talking about what he was going through during the day, but kind of transformed that to taking in donations and and fundraisers. All of a sudden, it was companies like would show up, like Coca-Cola would show up with like a million bottles of Gatorade at the trash plant to give it to the workers before they went ahead. But again, using the opportunity of something to gain exposure to kind of tell that story. Hey, it wasn't pretty to start with, but we can transform it into something good.
Gotcha. It's funny. I recently just saw a story of a young sister that worked at a Starbucks, and she got Karen by a lady who didn't want to wear her mask in the store. BuzzFeed picked it up, and it's gotten all kinds of traction. She actually started a GoFundMe campaign, and she's getting money for college. She's a college student that got severely abused by this lady at Starbucks over as her asking her to wear a mask, and the lady was like really irate. But BuzzFeed picked it up, and it's gotten major traction now. So I guess some of those things are good too to get media exposure as well.
People want to have connections, and it works in all different ways, even in the things that you don't think about. It's got an email the other day. It's a guy who's a lawyer in the city. I don't think he's of color, but he definitely he was like, hey, he had a PR person send an email. Hey, you know what? This guy's a respected lawyer in the city. Yo, he's of counsel to the Republican Party for post-election issues. Do you want to be connected with him? Like, you know what I mean? So yes, absolutely. I want his number. I want to know, like, this is going to be a tough election. And, hey, he may not be able to talk about specific cases, but can he give us insight and direction that we would not have otherwise? Absolutely. So that was a nice pivot for him. I gave you the example earlier of the firm that's been hired by the city of Philadelphia to do the investigation into the tear gassing on 676 and 52nd Street.
Right.
She is an African-American woman, actually also from Montgomery County. But again, her firm has been really big in promoting her, like saying, hey, here's this local person who's taking on this complex investigation. Here's the skills and experience that she brings to it and what she's looking for. Are you interested in profiling that? Right. So being proactive about like where you are and what you're doing, like, it's in good ways and bad ways. Like, I think in that sense, like, as long as you think about, hey, what am I doing that's interesting, that's new, that's a little bit different, and then proactively wanting to share that with the media.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you need a PR person? Do you need a PR representative? Does it help? Does it hurt? Is it really worth the money?
I think you have to measure how much impact you want. And then the main thing with media is that it's not going to happen on your schedule. Like Kamari, like, I'll call you at like 10 in the morning and be like, hey, can you be here by 2 o'clock? Like, it's
a lot.
it's literally like that. So I think at that point you have to think about what your bandwidth is and how much you're able to do that. Because when that media call comes, it's going to come once and they're going to want some immediate reaction. And do you have the bandwidth to be able to manage that? I would say maybe initially when you first start, maybe you don't need somebody. But if you're looking to sustain it, if you feel like you need a little bit of coaching, that helps. Like, I know there's some PR people who remind you, it's particularly if you're particular about your style, hey, you know what, Manny, you're about to have media appearance. Don't forget to put on a tie. Hey, let me ask this other person. I know you get a little nervous. How many questions they're going to ask you, or things you may not know to ask in your first few things, that PR person might be able to help you through those first few times. And you may not need them from there, or you might just have a broader, relationship with a PR person. Charisse has a PR guy that represents her generally on her larger stuff, but she kind of takes care of her own day-to-day stuff. But when she has a product launch or other things, she is like, he's the guy, and he does really good work. She has another product coming out soon, but again, he's the guy that does all the back work on it. In the sense, hey, I'm going to go.
PR guy, right? Charisse didn't start with a PR guy, did she?
Yeah. Corey Versa.
Oh, she started with Corey Versa.
Yeah. So, but Corey's like the guy who, like, and again, so this maybe her business case might be similar to somebody who's watching. She's actually selling a product. So, hey, if I'm going to launch a new product, I need to have some professional photos of that product. Hey, I really need to make sure there's a website to send people to that has all the right language and the links to order and stuff like that. You might really want somebody to help you package your whole situation together like that so that you're ready for that media appearance.
Because you will get onslaught of calls sometimes, and they may not always be calls from your ideal clients.
Yes.
Because I know, I've gotten a lot of attention from the PPE, well, not package, but interview we did. And a lot of them weren't my ideal client, but I was able to help. And then subsequently, I did a lot of videos explaining PPP after that and was able to send them out to many of the people that asked me for calls or that called me for answers. So all right. So a PR person isn't always necessary.
No, it's not always necessary. I got a lot of PR friends who are probably going to text me like crazy after they see this episode, but no, it's not. It's not always necessary.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm talking more so for the beginner, right?
Yeah.
The person who's never been on TV, never been on radio, they probably aren't a good fit for your average PR person anyway, because they might have a limited budget.
Yes.
So PR people need to get paid as well. And, not trying to say that they're not worth their value, because I asked the question, are they worth their value? But again, if you don't have that budget or that wiggle room within that budget, it's really hard to do. But I'm guessing there are opportunities where you could possibly pitch yourself if you understand the dynamics of the pitch.
Yes. And I think if you're short and succinct about it and you know exactly what you're going to do, it can definitely work. Listen, I can't tell you how many times people just go up to our photographers on the street. We might happen to be on Germantown Avenue for something else. Now, you may not want to go up to a photographer. He's there for like a triple shooting. That may not be the right opportunity to go up to him. But if he's there shooting something else, hey, you know what, man? Listen, and you got to give him the pitch right away. Hey, you know what? Listen, I'm a third generation resident in this neighborhood. I'm opening a barbershop. Like, I'm doing something on Saturday, or, hey, you know what? I'm a teacher and I just decided to quit public school and I'm going to tutor kids on the block here starting next week. Can you guys come back and give them a card, give them an email? Making that connection is important.
Right.
Listen, here's another thing that works a lot: flattery. If
y'all probably get flattered all the time, right?
Yeah,
I got you hard for it.
But no, if you say that, hey, there's people you like on TV. Everybody's on social media this day. Hey, I really enjoy watching you every morning, or I see you in the afternoon, or hey, I saw this story, it really touched me. Just want to let you know, hey, I'm doing this thing. You might want to come. That you can start with some of those connections, and that certainly doesn't take a PR person at all.
Gotcha. Like, I was thinking about sending out a pitch for the Biden plan versus the Trump plan, but I just haven't had time to do it. I'm sure that's something I might get traction for.
Yes.
But it's not always guaranteed, right?
No, not always. Right. And so, but like I said, I like the idea that if you put that out, it's not wasted content in the sense that, I sent it out and nobody watched. Like, you have an active website through the Black Wealth Project and the Finance Rebel. Like, so like, it's not like, hey, I didn't share it with anybody. Like I'm actually feeding my own audience at the same time and keeping them engaged. And hey, here's this thing that's ready to go bigger if we need to do that.
All right. So that leads me to a question. Sometimes like I'll have ideas that I want to do a thing. And I know sometimes some of the outlets, whether it be radio, TV, or print, they want exclusivity, right? So I wonder, should I put it out first and then send it to them, or should I send it out to pitch it and then wait to put it out to the mass public to see if it's accepted or not?
So my honest answer in this situation is that unless you are getting something out of the deal, I think there's no reason for you to be selling exclusive in something that's exclusive. Like, you need to be getting something out of the deal too.
Okay, so let's say I decide to do a Trump tax plan versus a Biden tax plan, shoot a video of it, throw it up on my YouTube, and then say, you know what, I'm going to pitch this out to everybody. You think that's fine?
That's absolutely fine. Because on the web, it's on the web. You might agree that, hey, you know what, I can be exclusive on TV first. I can be exclusive on the web first. I worked on another story. Now this is with the police department. It's a little different, but we had an exclusive story last Friday out at the shore, And obviously the police department, you know, the public agency, they can't not talk to other people.
Right.
But, you know, we were, you know, hey, we were exclusive at 4, the first, you know, and then, you know, hey, the person ended up talking to us first, and
Right.
they moved on everyone else. So you can work out deals in that same sense. Like, you
Yeah.
know, hey, I can be exclusive to you for now. That doesn't mean exclusive forever. Like, I'm not going to talk to anybody unless there's some financial contract. If you guys notice, and that's probably something the average person doesn't notice on television, if somebody's like a contributor, like you're watching MSNBC and that person is a contributor or a CNN contributor, it means they're getting paid. They have a contract to appear in that particular place. And generally that's going to preclude you from appearing other places. But, you know, those people are getting paid. So unless you have an exclusive agreement with somebody, you should have yourself be a freelancer.
Okay. No, that's good stuff. Because, you know, I know there was a couple, like I wrote the op-ed piece about the mummers and their racist activities in the city of Philadelphia. And I was told for the Enquirer here, and I was told I shouldn't post it anywhere yet. I should just send it to them and let them accept it or reject it first. And so that's what I was thinking about throughout that whole time. So I guess it really depends on the situation.
Yeah, it depends on the situation and the outlet. So, you know, and sometimes you will do that. I you know, and it's one of those things again when you asked about a PR person. Again, it depends on what you're trying to do and how you're trying to work it out.
Right.
Because it works. You know, even now with like the breaking news videos or the Ring video cameras, and everybody would like share the footage now. And so one of the things on the business end of like television is that people will give out the video. But if it's a particularly compelling piece of video, sometimes licensing agencies will contact those people later on, and then I'll have to stop using it because now there's a fee. Use it every time we use it, and because they've sold it to this other person. Gotcha. So there's definitely a business side to all this stuff.
Gotcha. So, you know, again, being the managing editor over at KYW-TV, one of the major TV.
One more. Actually, I wanted to add one more thing on that too, Kamar.
All right, go ahead.
In that deal exclusively too, find out what, again, that's that mind of having your strategy, what you want out of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's good. Like, listen, hey, listen, everybody on this call has an opportunity to call me, and exclusive on Channel 3 will make me pick up more often than not. But you need to think about what you want from it. Like, you know what I mean? Hey, maybe, like I said, maybe there's another tax advisor and it is tax season and they really want more people to call them. Is it really beneficial for you to just have your message only for Channel 3 if Channel 10 was interested? You need to make that decision for yourself. And so think about that going into it before you just say yes to somebody.
Gotcha. Okay. That's a great point. So being the managing editor over KYW-TV, one of the major television stations here in the city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, what's your day like? Like you said, you get like 1,000 emails a day. You're only responding to one. I mean, how many times are people actually pitching you?
All day long. I think I have like 40,000 emails, which is bad. I'm always getting yelled at because it's like I try not to delete any of them because I want to, you know, sometimes I don't see an immediate use to it, but I want to keep somebody's contact information on. But my day is usually pretty intense. I'm up at 5 in the morning. I will start at home in the morning. I want to watch to see what everybody covered overnight, what all the other reporters are. And then I usually will try to figure out like, hey, what are we going to do between the morning and noon? And then I'll run and go and get to the station. We have a morning news meeting by 9:30, and we're kind of lay out our news assignments for the day. We'll all sit down in the room and decide, hey, this is what's going on. This is who we have, where we're going to plant our flags for the day. And in between that, I'm trying to figure out, hey, what's going on? Like, you know, I'm reading all the papers or a lot of blogs. I'm going in through a lot of emails. I want to come back to that, by the way, when I asked you about when we mentioned the emails.
Okay.
And then it's kind of like, I feel like it ramps through those meetings. So we kind of have that meeting at 9:30. Then whatever we decide at 9:30, I'm rushing to do that. We get on at noon. We have another meeting at 12:30 to kind of figure out the rest of the afternoon from there. There's another meeting at 3. We kind of talk about what we're going to do for 11, but then we're on from 4 to 6.
Wow.
And then I'm usually trying to leave the office around like 7, but it is a long day.
Okay. Well, what was the point about the email you wanted to mention?
You know what? A lot of things is a lot of people are doing now too, finding value in is newsletters. Um,
To send to you, or just to get more potential media exposure?
Well, I think they want media exposure, but they're also like curating their own audiences. You know, I will read newsletters. You know, there's a newsletter group that I read today. It's a group of parents here in Northwest Philly who are concerned about public schools. And so and obviously these parents went to the hours-long school district meeting last night. I wasn't going to set up for that, unfortunately. But one of the bigger things was like, oh, you know what? They happened to drop a report of showing that the air circulation wasn't good in many public schools. Well, you know, that wasn't really something in any of the papers today. It's only really because I read it in their newsletter, and they had a link to it right in there. That's something I would definitely want to pick up on and follow on. So
are you going to run a story on that?
I would like to do a story on that. Yes. So, but okay. Yeah, well, or when something comes up about schools, it'd probably be some first source material that I'll keep. That's a little niche, but there's another guy. He runs a lobbying firm in Harrisburg with politicians lobby, but he rounds up all of the biggest headlines from across the state. I love reading his blog every morning because I get a quick look at what happened in politics. Or in the State House yesterday, even though I wasn't watching the whole State House thing. And I think in a sense, maybe a lot of people who are experts in their field don't think about the value of a newsletter. There are ways, and we could do a whole other episode where some people are finding some real big success in kind of monetizing their newsletters, like actually charging for specialized content that's good. But I think it's a different way of hyper engaging with people and allowing them to make some connections.
Yeah, I'm over here laughing because I'm sure a good friend of mine, Donnie Bryant, shout out to Donnie Bryant. He's like the email copyright king. And he always says, Kamara, you need to send out more emails. Like, your emailing sucks. He's like, you need to get together. You know, matter of fact, there's another guy I know, Lamar Tyler, and him and Donnie got together and kind of made fun of me. It's like, Kamara, you never sent out any emails, and kind of, did a whole thing about it. But yeah, emailing is very powerful. And putting together an email newsletter could be very powerful too. Do you worry about it being pretty, or do you just want to see the substance, the headlines?
You want to see the substance. I think for me, unfortunately, I think the thing is, and listen, I get a chance to experience them, but from both sides, through doing newsletters for PABJ. You can spend a lot of time on making that newsletter really pretty. And only for Gmail to jack it up when they send it out. Everybody's email client is different.
Right.
So I would say put a priority on what you're trying to say. Actually try to keep it simple because you never know how people are reading it. They got so many devices these days.
The good old cell phone.
You know what, Kamari, man? I mean, only because we talk about gadgets, but it's and watching these videos again. And you know what? Maybe people doing YouTube videos is like a thing too. Like we're just talking about like keeping content and being an expert. But man, I'm trying to convince myself that I need an iPad Pro. I watched like 80 of those videos. But when we're talking about the email, one of the guys I was watching the video for was just saying like it's a totally different experience in your email on the iPad Pro compared to your iPhone. Like, so
I mean, I can imagine. I mean, I have an iPad and it's just bigger. Yeah. And I'm getting up there in age, and I gotta break out my readers sometimes because I haven't been to my black eye doctor.
Yeah.
I do need to make an appointment for it. But yeah, as you get older, it's necessary to have a bigger reading surface to read stuff on. So,
but again, and some of that again, like people will figure out in a sense, like how is that curating to your audience? Like, hey, the guy who probably does the politics blog knows it's a lot of like political people who are reading it first thing in the morning. And so his could be a little less busier, like, because he knows like I'm reading the bullet points. So I'm trying to get through these links, maybe if it's
well, hold on, let me ask you this.
If it's a blog that's about, the neighborhood families that's doing gardening, maybe I'm more interested in the photos of everybody else's garden. That's going to attract me.
But let me ask you this.
Have me in mind how you
the guy in Harrisburg, is his more geared towards media, or is it more geared towards informing his clients, or is it more geared towards the mass public?
I think he does it. I think he's trying to have a conversation with his clients, but definitely with the eye to the media. Though he's trying to get more people to know about his service and what he does. Like, he's branding himself as a foremost political expert in Harrisburg.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania, unfortunately, we don't really have, like, again, and I think that's one of those situations too, in mass media in general. Listen, the business dynamics are changing. You know what, Kamari, this brings up a good point, because I actually want to talk about somebody else. There's a woman who has a thing, and I'll shout her out. I don't have a business interest with her. It's called Chester Incident Blog. It's her Facebook page.
Okay.
The woman who lives in Chester, and I believe her story, if I'm saying it correctly, I think she's a mom. She was working, concerned about the crime in her neighborhood, and I think she, with the pandemic, became unemployed and was just putting up pictures or information about the shootings and stuff like that in her neighborhood. Well, then, she started a Facebook group, and the thing started to grow. She recently just got a logo, and like within the past 2 weeks, and changed the name. Now it's called Chester Chirp, Chester Help Incident Resources Page, Help Incidents and Resources Page.
So she did the thing that we always talk about, right? Because y'all like to label me as a journalist.
Yeah.
But she is truly doing journalism work. She's doing citizen journalism. Is that correct?
Yes. And she's able, and I think now she's like pivoting to some paid options of some of the information she gives out. And she wants a better balance, I think, for herself of good news and bad news, but like is now thinking about it as an owner, as a curator of that info. It's never going to be the day that any mainstream organization is going to have a Chester Bureau for news anymore. Like, so it's nice to see people, hey, you know what? I'm going to take ownership of the information needs for my community and do that. And again, it might be kind of hard. Like I said, you don't have to do it for your community, but you can say, like I said, I mentioned the Northwest Parents on Facebook is a serious thing. They got a newsletter, they got a Facebook page. They're hyper about schools, and I think there's power in ownership of that.
Okay, so would any news outlet or organization reach out to the Chester lady to cover news in Chester?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely talk to her. I ask questions of her all the time.
Okay.
Listen, it's happening everywhere in a different organic sense. Like, I don't know how many Instagram fans are on here, but even when you watch, I noticed in the past few months, unfortunately, we're having a crime epidemic in the city. It's kind of like 2 Facebook accounts that just popped up, 911 Philly and I think No Gun Zone Philly, and they kind of like compete to say who's first. I don't know if it's verified information to go to air with, but they're obviously finding a niche in it. There's another one I probably shouldn't promote it because I love Philly. I like to post the positive aspects, but it's another group.
The one in Kensington?
No. I was gonna say Philly Scoop Hall.
Yeah. Have you seen the one on IG called, I think it's called Kensington Beach or something like that?
I did heard of them, yes.
They cover the drug infestation in Kensington, and I mean, it's really bad. And some of the stuff they really show is very graphic and it's really bad, but they're giving you a first-hand account of what's going on. And I think that some of the stuff has actually got coverage.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, like, yeah, listen, are we looking at it? Are we using them? Yes, we are. Like, I don't want to say that's not like there's no relationship between them and media, but more to the example of Scoop Hall, though, I know that they have been putting up more like social content that's related to Philly that's trending. But now I noticed they've got a whole situation with like, it's $10 a promo, and they'll put up other businesses on their story in their feed. It's become a thing. So
basically, they took an opportunity because their stories weren't being covered, created an audience or gathered an audience rather, yes. And they created a business opportunity out of it.
And again, listen, I'm very proud of the work that we do every day. Listen, I start 4 a.m. because I love it and don't leave until 7 because I love it. But listen, people consume media in very different ways these days. I think that unfortunately, listen, I got 2 teenagers who live in my house, and I don't know that they're waiting to watch the news that comes on at 4 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock.
Right.
And headlines to them is what pops up on their Instagram feed or on Twitter. And I think that, when you talk about your personal media strategy is how you are looking to engage. Like you may, hey, who do I want to hyper engage with? It's not just young people who are there. It's everybody uses social media, especially during the pandemic. Patterns have changed. Actually, Kamari, I was watching something, which conversation we talk about media strategy the other day. You saw that QB shut down.
Yes.
And I guess one of the biggest conversations out of QB was that QB was trying to have Hollywood kind of curate content for individuals.
Right.
Really it didn't work because it seems like individuals want to curate their own content.
Right.
Like people like looking at their own stuff and figuring out how it works, or at least using the algorithms that exist on other products.
Absolutely.
I think the industry is rapidly changing. And with QB too, like they were kind of like selling, hey, this is your on the go. Like, hey, if you commute to work and you got to watch like 6 minutes of a show, come watch it on here. Well, we're in a new reality now where not as many people are going to work as traditional ways as they used to. So that doesn't work. So I think that opens up opportunities if people think about it a little bit more.
So let me ask you this, right? So you are the managing editor. When a person is trying to pitch a story, Black business is trying to pitch a story, should they be contacting you? Should they be contacting the actual journalists who might be covering business?
They should contact both.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think in a sense, because I think you got to. The thing is, especially in this business, like the bandwidth is just tight. You know what I mean? And so it's just sometimes, listen, I'm hyper interested in the story of the day. Like, hey, other day President Obama was here, and there were a couple other things going on. And definitely, I'm only, my mind is tied up with those things. So I might not see a pitch and be able to really adequately, pay full attention to it or really be able to engage as much as I want with that, as opposed to the reporter who might have more time to read their stories that day. But that next day could be exactly inversed. Maybe they're working on a real hard grind of the story, and maybe I just finished a project and I have some additional time to read and get back to those when I can. So it's definitely interesting. And again, don't be afraid of sending multiple emails. Like, don't send the same one over and over again. But like I said, a lot of times I will use those emails once you become a reliable source. Like, I will know what's going on. It's a woman who she's actually like a political advocate, but she lives in the end of Cheltenham Avenue by Tookenny Creek Parkway.
Okay.
The funny part is, like, this woman is a real advocate. Sometimes she sends me emails actually about what we're airing, and just to give me her impact. But you know what? She is really big on Tookenny Creek overflowing, and but she will send an email. Hey, Manny, I know it's raining today. Just to let you know. You know what? Nothing's going on. Or she'll say, hey, it's really bad today. You should send a camera over. That becomes our relationship that I talk to her on a regular basis. I don't always respond to her stuff. And you know what? That works in the same way too, in a sense, especially if you know somebody in a situation, because not every story needs to be a whole segment.
Right.
Hey, you know what, Manny? Nothing's going on in the creek today, but you know what? Hey, on Saturday, we're really going to give out milk to some kids on this block who really, really need it. Just, hey, if you really want to come by, I just want to let you know that's going on at 10 o'clock. And sometimes we can. Sometimes we want to tell that story. And so that relationship gets a chance to dig a little bit deeper. I look forward to her emails all the time.
Okay. So, well, I know we're pressed for time, but 2 more questions, then we can open up for question and answer for a little bit. All right. So your overall job, though, is you're kind of like the coach or the quarterback of the entire newsroom, right? Yeah. So do you have direct authority to create stories, assign stories, or is the journalist pitching you stories? Like, how does that work?
I do. I'm kind of thinking about what it is. I try to think about it in a collaborative sense. It takes a lot to get on television, so it's not just me, waving a magic wand. We got a whole technical, and that happens. There's a big team of producers who stack the shows and line the shows, and there's another group of writers and producers who are, I might just say, hey, you know what? It's, listen, Kamar, so, I talk colloquially all the time, darn it, that's a big fire, I might say that in the newsroom. There's somebody who will translate that into it's a 4-alarm fire and 3 people got rescued, right, and make sense to you on the air. So I like to give them a lot of credit to say, but yes, I'm trying to figure out that balance every day. And you know what? While we're in the same point too, just in a sense too, I like to be transparent. In a sense, it's not a sense of perfection. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes I'm just like anybody else. Hey, you know, we're too much on the politics today. Hey, we're too much focused on this one. Hey, we didn't get enough of this opinion. And I try to shoot for that fine balance every day.
Gotcha.
Kamari, we got a second on that too. I think people, especially people of color, so when you send an email to just complain about coverage, and hey, as long as you're not going crazy, or you may not necessarily get a response, but we read it, we know. You know, listen. I remember the, I don't want to use her name on the air, but remember the whole thing with Columbus statue and Marconi Plaza.
Yes.
And I remember we kept calling people, the people who wanted the statue to stay. We kept calling them protesters. And there's a woman who called me, and I had to remember, like, you know, hey, I'm in Philly, and listen, people can have extreme points of view, but there are a lot of people who have been long-term residents of South Philly. Woman, she emailed me, hey, I'm a grandma from South Philly, and every time you call me a protester, I am I'm offended. Hey, we built this. Her home was around the corner from the statue.
And so this home that celebrates a rapist, murderer, and kidnapper, they want to protect.
Yes, I mean, I mean, but in her point, it was just saying, hey, we there are people coming out from outside our neighborhood telling us how we should live where we are. Maybe I'm applying a label to her that doesn't necessarily apply. Maybe I need to be more balanced in explaining their point of view compared to the others. You know what I mean? Sometimes that happens with the slip of the language too. Listen, I'll be perfectly truthful in that situation, that she was labeled a protester because the mayor said they were a protester. But, you know, just because the mayor was using that in their language doesn't make somebody something. It was a point of conversation for me. And I think that, you know, more people like express, hey, I saw this and maybe that's exactly not how it is, or I need you to think about this. We all need more balance in this nation altogether. So
Gotcha.
Speak up when you feel like something isn't right or being told.
Okay. So this will be the last question. If everybody in the listening audience has a question, go ahead and throw it in the chat now. But this is kind of a two-part question, right? So you talked about people pitching their ideas and their businesses. How do they find who to pitch to, right? How do they get that information?
You want to, I mean, if you, like I said, if you see a favorite place or whatever, you know what I would do, which is the easiest thing, just say, hey, most newsrooms have what's called an assignment desk. Things, just look up an assignment desk. See, assignment desk, CBS 3, assignment desk, you know, Word Radio.
Is that on like Twitter, IG, Facebook?
Just a Google search. And then you usually find like the main contact switchboard or anything. And then, hey, that's how you get to know that person. And for viewers of this show, if you guys want to email me directly, mine's is real simple. It's just smith@cbs3.com.
Are you sure you want to put it out there? You know,
put it out there, yes.
This is going to be on YouTube. This is going to be all over the place.
Yes, but if people have a story idea, hey, I will always read one. I can't promise I'll always get back to every single person.
Okay.
Listen, I always overshoot to try to do too much and never deliver, but I will definitely try. I will definitely read everyone.
And it's Smith. What was it again? Smith what?
Smith@cbs3.com.
All right, y'all. So y'all can't say I never did nothing for y'all, right? I'm giving y'all kind of exclusive access here that you normally wouldn't get. So Smith@cbs3.com.
Yes, and I will definitely look for those pictures.
Okay, so I'll
do an election day though.
Election day.
Not an election day.
I mean, what is election day you think going to be like for you? How crazy is that going to be?
My personal prediction is I think election day will be relatively easy. I think there'll be a lot of lines at the polling places. I think it'll be the day after. I think that we probably are not going to have a result election night. And really, in my mind, just being managing editor, I think explaining to people and getting them ready for that now. You know, it's particularly in the state of Pennsylvania, we've had a record number of ballots going through. And so if you just think about it from the point of view of, you can't open ballots in the state of Pennsylvania until after the polls close, which is 8:00. And so even if we were just 100,000 ballots, can we really expect that hey, they're just going to zip through all 100,000 and have a result, Thursday night, much less Friday night or going into Saturday? That's going to be a Herculean job that has to be replicated in counties all across the country. It's going to be a little while before we really know the answer.
Yeah, and we're probably definitely going to get backlash because the Republicans are trying to say it's kind of like an illegitimate process. So I'm expecting some pushback on that as well.
Yeah, it definitely will. And listen, the one thing, and again, this is probably a little off the point, but remember after 9/11, it felt like at a point that, hey, a lot happened, and but at some point people got kind of to a unifying sense. I do wonder in a sense that, hey, as Americans, we have to find a way to all live together. It's not like anything's going to change today or tomorrow. And so when do we get to the point like, hey, where do we have the conversations to kind of like figure it out? And
well, I think you got to ask the Proud Boys in the Boogaloo Gang or whatever they call themselves that question. I don't think it's our community and the people that listen to my show that have a problem with living together or just, just being peaceable and amenable to things, especially since we've kind of been on the short end of the stick. I think it's those other folks that truly have a problem with living together and being peaceful and harmonious. But that's just my 2 cents.
No, I definitely want to be clear in the sense that I don't want to individually point fingers, but I do think conversations can start better if people leave an open conversation to a solution. Like, hey, what can somebody do or not do or make a first step toward a solution? Just any side, I think coming in and just being angry at somebody, like it's definitely a legitimate feeling, but how do we get past it?
I get you, but we live in strange times. Everybody, I appreciate everyone being here. If you have any questions about media placement, getting your business in the media, whether it be print, TV, or radio, put them in the chat right now. I neglected to tell you guys that Manny didn't just start his career at KYW-TV. This guy's been all over the place. His last big stint was in NBC Universal up in New York.
Yep.
So he was covering politics nationwide. So, this guy's got some experience. He's got some chops. He's paid his dues.
Listen, I like I said, I think there's more opportunities for people to let media parlay or help your efforts. I think it's just a little bit of thought, a little bit of wisdom into it. And listen, Kamari, I think you're a prime example of how you do that. When have people ever thought about Black people really wanting to get serious about their finances? It's a real conversation. I think you get, which is funny, anytime you put up anything, you get real questions that we don't really talk about. And here's the other thing that's amazing in the sense that why cultural media needs to be cultural, because we're all of a certain age, or at least you and I are in this part of the conversation,
Right.
And so as much as people like to say, oh, we don't talk about salaries at work, well, listen, Kamari, I'm surely wasn't going up to my mom or my grandma, how much do you make per year? Why you count my pockets, young man? We didn't want to talk about those things, but those are things that we get to a certain age and somebody asks you about mortgage rates or interest rates or whatever, we have less knowledge on. So it's definitely a wider need for that type of content. And only we who come from that background can serve to fill it.
I agree. And because you just said something that kind of just sparked a thought. I think a lot of times our elders and our ancestors were really hesitant about having money conversations was because we didn't really have a true space or place of certainty. We didn't have stability. And so you might, let's say back in the day in the 50s, you might make $50 to $100 a week. And that might change 2 weeks from now where you're doing nothing. You're making nothing. Or just making a small percentage of that. So you could never really actually say a lot of times what your income actually was just because of the environment.
Yes.
So our environment, what I like to talk about is that our environment has actually shaped how we think about money, how we have conversations about money. It's a very nuanced thing. It's a very nuanced thing. A lot of people just like to say, well, Black folks are dumb and they don't understand money. No, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit deeper than that. And
that's, we're in this beautiful space. Like I talk about you all the time of content of journalism, right? So listen, 40 years ago, when there was trouble with people of color even just having jobs in general newsrooms, right? And people made the rules of the Association of Black Journalists. Like, did they ever envision a day 40 years ago where, man, I can probably have a home studio and just talk about finance all day? And people
finance, politics, everything from the Black experience can be used as content in some way, shape, or form.
It's even to the sense, somebody was reminding me the other day, like, again, and not just want to use like negative examples, but even the whole arc of police reform and conversations with the Black community, obviously things have been out of whack for a long time. But remember the Rodney King video, which was terrible, like as far as quality.
Yeah.
It was one of the first times we ever saw, like, everybody was able to see, hey, you know what? Some stuff happens on the streets.
Well, we saw it.
And it was, and it was actual evidence. But look where we've gone to today, where people can have cell phone videos and record things in real time. There's a democratization of media. And yes, we can use it for advocacy on that behalf, but you also can use it to advocate for your business and for us to master it. And I want to see us master that space a little bit better.
Okay. Well, I don't see any questions. So take a quick minute to tell everybody about PABJ and NBJ and how business owners can actually use access to being a member there and how it could help them do what you just said.
So the Philly Association of Black Journalists, we're the oldest association of journalists of color in the nation. We actually helped to found the National Association of Black Journalists. It's about 200 something members, and we all get together. Most of us have come from traditional news backgrounds. But the organization, especially in recent years, thanks to people like Kamari, has helped us move forward in a sense to say, hey, you know what? Journalism isn't just working for the New York Times. Like, hey, there are people who do really good stories, who tell documentaries in different places, who are really active on social media. I think our only thing is, in a sense, hey, we're looking for people who are looking to be truthful and accurate and really seek to inform our communities. So we encourage you guys to join. You should come check us out in the meetings. They are virtual for the most part, but phillyabj.org is our website. Check us out and see what we're about. And the last thing I want to mention too, like we told the success story of Sharice, but there's been a few other chefs who have come to do things for PABJ and have been pretty amazing. Actually, I just talked to you about another one of your guys came to feed PABJ. Was it Chef Millie or something like that or whatever? I just saw him on Instagram the other day.
No, I didn't do Chef Millie. It might have been Zori Cooks.
Yes, it was Zori Cooks. Yes.
So shout out to Zori Cooks.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of good things can come out of networking and joining professional organizations. And a lot of times you don't even imagine the information and value that you can get, and that can be applied to your business. So I agree, Manny. Well, Manny, thank you for joining us. Thank you for imparting knowledge. I know you got a busy day covering all the things that are going on here in Philadelphia and nationwide.
I appreciate that, Kamar.
I'm going to use some of these things. Maybe I'll start a newsletter now.
Yes, I would subscribe to it. I definitely would.
But I appreciate you. Come back again. We'll have to have this conversation again. Thanks again.
I look forward. Thanks, Kamari. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.